Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be giving you my Scorpio October 2018 horoscope forecast. And yes, this does apply and pertain to the Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Anyway, people, first thing up is as far as October goes, the Sun will be in Libra from the 1st until the 23rd. So the 12th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time, well, there could be a very strong concentration of energy, attention, and focus on hidden adversaries, the self-undoing, limitations, restrictions, privacy, solitude, seclusion. It could be even clandestine affairs. It could be on those that are less fortunate than yourself, such as the oppressed, the impoverished, the homeless, the hungry. Given that it could shine the light on a Libra hidden adversary. It could be a Libra Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, or simply one that embodies Libra-like characteristics. Now, given this is Libra energy, these 12th house matters might be done with, unfortunately, some ambivalence and indecision. Maybe done with weighing a lot of the pros and cons. It could be through intellectual sociability. Maybe talking to the right people, exchanging ideas back and forth. Maybe somehow you get friendly with someone and you find out maybe if a certain person may actually be your enemy as opposed to a friend, and that's how the hidden adversaries thing could play out as an example. Ingratiating yourself in the right groups. The thing about it is, to also, given this is Libra energies, could be done with a lot of tact, diplomacy, and also a lot of equitable energy, a lot of fairness as well, and balance. Anyway, people, next thing up. As far as October goes, the Sun will be in Scorpio from the 23rd until the 31st. So the first house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time, there could be a strong concentration of energy, focus, and attention on the self, self-interest, the appearance, first impressions, the physical body, and especially if this is actually the first house in one's natal chart. New beginnings. It could be with somebody maybe prominent in your early childhood. Perhaps. So anyway, and given that this is Scorpio energy, this could be done with a lot of emotional intensity, resourcefulness, even some resiliency. I mean, if something you start, a new beginning doesn't go right away, I mean, it could be using a lot of that Scorpio willpower and bounce back ability to stay with it. Also a lot of intractable and willful energy as well. Excuse me. And also, I mean, looking at this as well in a very deep manner as well. And it could be making, I mean, that when you're talking about the first house and then the Sun, I mean, this is shining the light on self. Scorpio energy could be very transforming. So there might be a strong focus and concentration of power and attention on perhaps transforming the self at this time. So anyway. Next thing up is there will be a new moon in Libra on October 8th. So at this time, the 12th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time, well, in some cases, this could be a new Libra hidden adversary. Maybe begin. You know, it might be the start of one. If it's a hidden adversary, you may not obviously know about it. Could be a Libra Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, or simply one that embodies Libra-like characteristics. But it could also be, in some cases, a new Libra clandestine affair. I mean, it could be with, again, Libra Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, or one that embodies Libra-like characteristics. It might be a time, too, where you might start and embark on, so to speak, some peace and balance in your private life. And it could be a lot of really perhaps a new period. Maybe it could be a new aunt or an uncle that might be a Libra, a Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, or embody Libra characteristics. It could also be maybe a new Libra connection that might drive you figuratively crazy at this time. as well. So, I mean, obviously this could manifest in a multitude of ways. And you might begin or embark on some kind of new Libra-like project in seclusion or solitude, and or maybe or doing something very and trying a new period where you feel you're being fair to those that are less fortunate than yourself, such as the oppressed, the impoverished, the homeless, and the hungry, and maybe dispersing energy evenly with various people that are less fortunate than yourself in a new period, perhaps of doing so. Anyway, next thing up. There will be a full moon in Taurus on October 24th. So the 7th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. And again, like that new moon in Libra, this could manifest obviously in a multitude and manifold ways. Now, at this time, you might simply become tired, exasperated, or full even of perhaps an obstinate, stubborn, unyielding, a very stolid, even boring, perhaps significant other, or it might be someone you're in an important relationship with, a business partner, or maybe even a grandmother in some cases. Now, it could also reflect perhaps the completion or culmination of a Taurus-like partnership, such as something with cultivation, gardening, architecture, stockbroker firm, doing something with as a pawnbroker business. And also, when the full moon, it can also be about revelations and unveilings. And this could be, in some cases, maybe a revelation or unveiling of maybe a greedy, avaricious, acquisitive, really a person that could be, it could be a significant other. It could be someone you have an important relationship with, a business partnership with, perhaps. Could also be, I mean, it could even be the unveiling of some open adversary. That could be a Taurus open adversary, a Taurus sun, moon, or ascendant, or simply one that embodies Taurus-like characteristics. Another way this could manifest in some cases, if you're in a legal situation, this could be the disclosure or unveiling, so to speak, of like a monetary legal settlement, and knowing that amount perhaps at this time. So, and it could be a stubborn legal situation, or persistent stubborn legal situation might come to a conclusion at this time. Anyway, next thing up is Mercury will be in Libra as far as October goes, from the 1st until the 9th. So at this time, the 12th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So you might find yourself having more tactful and diplomatic, very polite conversations, perhaps with an aunt or an uncle, people that are prominent in your private life, and also about maybe balanced thinking for those less fortunate, and trying to figure out maybe how maybe you can help them, for example, and balancing the energies to various, it could, for example, be various charitable organizations for people that are in various limiting situations, or have some debilitation or what have you. Also, too, this could be about weighing the pros and cons, maybe of dealing with maybe some limitations that you may have at this time, some restrictions and limitations. And also, too, it could be, I mean, remember that, as I've stated in previous videos, that Mercury can also, I mean, it's not just about communications, it could also be about siblings. So it could be in some cases where Libra siblings, they could be Libra, sun, moon, or ascendant people, or simply ones that embody Libra-like characteristics, might figure more prominently in your private life at this time, and maybe in terms of maybe they could factor into some limitation, or they might be beneficial in giving you ideas and helping you deal with it, for example, or they might simply they may be at this time, I mean, driving you figuratively crazy, since we are talking about the 12th house. So, and there might be much conversation and discussion regarding hidden adversaries, and who may be, you know, going through some Libra-like ambivalence and indecision as to who they might be, and trying to figure, in terms of trying to figure them out. So, anyway, well, the next thing up is Mercury will be in Scorpio as far as October goes, from the 9th until the 31st. So the first house is what will be emphasized and highlighted at this time. Well, this could be about more incisive and deep provocative conversations, perhaps with people you may have known from your early childhood. It could be about thinking very deeply and really about perhaps starting some new beginnings. Perhaps you might come across at this time as more loquacious and talkative than usual, and perhaps talking about Scorpio-like things. It could even just be having very deep, non-superficial conversations, and also and maybe some Scorpio-like things, including astrology, the occult, supernatural, magic, alchemy, things that connected with investigation, and also too at this time. And the conversations might be about, just about your general outlook on life and thinking deeply in regards to that. And in any way, this also, again, as I've stated before, that Mercury is not just about communications. They could also be about siblings as well. And it could be that at this time you may have Scorpio siblings, or Scorpio Sun, Moon, or Ascendant siblings, or simply ones that embody Scorpio-like characteristics that might figure more prominently in your outlook and making decisions on new beginnings, and even maybe commenting perhaps on your appearance at this time, and especially if this is the actual first house in one's natal chart. Anyway, hold on a minute, people. Sorry about that. Anyway, next thing up. Well, Venus will be in Scorpio in October, and it will be retrograde from like the 6th until the 31st. So again, the first house is what will be emphasized and highlighted at this time. Well, a Scorpio might come across as more attractive than usual, perhaps wearing very sultry, sexy, provocative outfits, mysterious ones. You may, at this time too, given it's going to be retrograde for the majority of the month, you may come into contact with a past Scorpio or Scorpio-like relationship, and it might really have a very strong impact perhaps on you in terms of maybe of some new beginning. It could be a Scorpio Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, or simply one that embodies Scorpio-like characteristics. Now, now, this could also be very fortuitous for something monetary that's Scorpio related, because you're talking about Venus is connected with money and being the first house. That's why it can be very positive for something monetary. It could be something doing something Scorpio related, something with transforming, such as recycling or rebuilding vehicles. It could be something with astrology, the occult, supernatural, embalming, doing locksmith work, perhaps. And also remember that Jupiter is going to be hitting that, it's going to be emphasizing and highlighting the first house as well. So this might add a little bit of luck, perhaps as well, to the equation, so to speak, as far as what I talked about with Venus and Scorpio and the first house. So anyway, next thing up is Mars will be in Aquarius still, so the fourth house is what will be emphasized and highlighted at this time. Well, you might find yourself really having more acrimonious and contentious situations with people that you're close to home with. It could be people in your home and family life. It could also be at this time you might find yourself becoming angry at perhaps idiosyncratic, bizarre, or unusual behavior from family members, from people close to home with. It could be you might be getting into more arguments over things that are property related, and being that it's Aquarius, they could be rather spontaneous and very unpredictable. You might be having more fights with friends over property related matters, but you might be putting a lot of energy and vitality into getting in touch with your roots and your ancestry, and it could be over foundations as well. And given its Aquarius energy, it could be somewhat sporadic and erratic, though. Also, too, you might be putting a lot of energy and vitality into Aquarius-like things at home, or these things you may feel close to home with, such as astrology, astronomy, computers, electronics, even innovation, and energy maybe into a future home that you may be interested in terms of, like, say, developing. And also be wary of unusual accidents at home, and I mean, just be careful at this time, such as getting, arm caught in the door or something, when you're closing, and just very odd things, cutting yourself in very odd ways. I mean, sometimes, you can get paper cuts and things that you wouldn't anticipate getting you injured could happen. You have a greater propensity for perhaps at home this time, especially. Anyway. Next thing up is Jupiter will be in Scorpio still, so the first house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. At this time, there might be, as I've talked about in previous videos, that Jupiter, Jupiter is very benign and benevolent, but it could also have a tendency to enlarge and expand. And it might very well expand or enlarge surreptitious, even nefarious activity, even surreptitious activity, perhaps with someone that was prominent in your early childhood. It could be somebody that played a very strong role in your outlook on life. And also remember, too, that again, with Jupiter's expansive energy, there could be more of a propensity for weight gain at this time, and especially if this is actually hitting the first house in one's natal chart. So to be careful as far as maybe very dark food, like very dark succulent sweets at this time, Scorpio. And you might be come across as more humorous than usual at this time, but it might be very subtle, sarcastic, caustic type humor you might be expressing. Also, too, could be a good period for the fortuitous for the transformation of the physical body, again, especially if this is the actual first house in one's natal chart. And it could also expand Scorpio qualities in general, such as showing prodigious willpower, resourcefulness, emotional intensity, and also very willful, intractable energy at this time, and quick-witted energy. So anyway, next thing up, Saturn will still be in Capricorn, so the third house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. At this time, Scorpio, you might find yourself finding some more restrictions and limitations than usual in your communications. It might be causing you to feel somewhat despondent and melancholy. You might find yourself taking care of a debilitated or sickly cousin, a neighbor, or even sibling at this time. It could be over something Capricorn related, such as something with the knees, the bones, or the joints. And it might be, again, making you feel somewhat dejected at this time. It's very sad Capricorn energy. Now, also, too, this could be this could be a thing where perhaps older people might play a role in your communications more so than usual. And also, you might be taking more serious responsibility to communications, and also toward short journeys as well at this time. And anyway, and you might be feeling a little bit more just despondent and melancholy in general at this time, because this is, third house is the rational mind, rational thinking. Saturn is that sad, dejected planet, so you get the idea. And anyway, next thing up, Uranus will still be in Taurus, so the seventh house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. At this time, well, this could be about the formulation, perhaps, of new financial ideas, which could be beneficial to a business partnership. You might find that Taurus friendships might figure strongly in terms of perhaps a legal issue or court issue, and a lot of it, and they might figure more prominently perhaps in your relationships as well, more so than usual. And whether this could be good or bad, a lot can depend on the aspects that this is making to natal points in your chart. If it makes a positive aspect to Jupiter, say, in your chart, then it could be more auspicious in terms of relationships go and legal issues. But if it goes the other way and say it makes an adverse aspect to your natal Jupiter, well, then it might go the other way, actually, and that luck might be going in the opposite direction, so to speak. Also, too, you might be encountering more Uranus-like open adversaries at this time. They could be people that are in, say, astrology, astronomy, and some esoteric subject in addition to astrology. Somebody doing something with computers or electronics, or even innovators. You might, if you're unattached at this time, you might find yourself marrying a foreigner, perhaps, and you may see more unpredictable behavior from others in general, the grandmother, significant other, and anyway, maybe even someone you're in a business partnership with. Anyway, hold on a minute, people. Sorry about that. Anyway, next thing up is Neptune will be in Pisces, as far as actually will be in there the whole month. Neptune is still in Pisces, of course, so the 5th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. At this time, you may find yourself at this time seeing that children and lovers might be more deceptive and duplicitous than usual. They might be somewhat nebulous and unclear. Be careful as in regards to deluding yourself and speculation at this time. You might find yourself in some cases where you find that love, your enjoyment in general, and fun and amusement, there might be dissipating or dissolving. And be careful at this time as far as children, lovers go, being in contact, chemicals, or I should say becoming connected with drugs or alcohol at this time. And on a positive note, though, you might find yourself doing more things that are enjoyable, that are amusing you, that might be might be a hobby, that may be Neptune related, such as poetry, dancing, the metaphysical, which includes astrology, photography, chemistry, something maybe with boating, such as doing some, going out as a fisherman, doing fishing, I should say. Something that doing magic or illusion, something that could be working at doing some magician work, something that could be Neptune related. Anyway, next thing up is Pluto will be in Capricorn, so the 3rd house is what will be emphasized and highlighted at this time. Well, I know a lot of you don't want me to say the dreaded D word, but I'm going to anyway. Now, in some cases, this could be about perhaps the actual literal death of a sibling, a cousin, a neighbor. It could be someone you knew from your early education. In some cases, this could be about dealing with power struggles and perhaps manipulative behavior with 3rd house people, again, such as neighbors, siblings, cousins. Might be people you know in your short journeys, somebody from your early education. And also, too, you might find there might be some transformation in speech going on, perhaps at this time. It could be where you might just decide to learn a new language, perhaps, or it could be where maybe for some reason there might be something that is associated with maybe your voice changing, and depending on, a lot of this of course can depend on aspects. Let's say it makes an adverse aspect to your natal Saturn. This could be very adverse for maybe a negative change in association with your voice. In some isolated cases, it could be connected with maybe losing it in some cases, or even to Venus, because Venus can be associated with that voice, or even Mercury, because Mercury is about communication. So a lot of it depends on if it's making a lot of adverse aspects. It might be some negative changing with your voice and communication. If it's a lot of positive ones, it could be the other way around. So anyway, next thing up is the North Node will be in Leo, so the 10th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time, when you're talking about the North Node in transit, this could be about issues that one may have to confront or address. Now, considering that this is North Node in Leo in the 10th house, you might find yourself having to confront an arrogant, domineering, bombastic, overbearing, perhaps authority figure. It could be a dominant parent, the dominant parent, which is often the father, someone prominent in your career. You may be more directed toward being more generous and magnanimous in connection with the dominant parent in your career, maybe even being more extravagant in terms of improving your notoriety, improving your stature in life. It could be it really more about the public image or reputation, spending money such as advertising, promoting yourself, and also too, this could be in some cases it might be taking a lot of more pride and dignity in your public image and your reputation at this time. And also maybe dealing with 10th house matters with more courage and fortitude, and also being wanting attention, being lauded and praised for 10th house matters, such as matters connected with your career, especially, and maybe things you do for authority figures and the dominant parent, again, which is often the father. Anyway, well, next thing up is the Black Moon Lilith will be in Aquarius still. So at this time, the 4th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So when you're talking about the Black Moon Lilith, this could be about what could put one in a strong state of fright or trepidation. It could simply be relinquishing independence and freedom in home-related matters. It could be at this time too, with the Black Moon Lilith in Aquarius and the 4th house being emphasized and highlighted. This could be about maybe having dealing with or it could be a family member, someone you're close to home with, might be expressing some rather idiosyncratic, bizarre, unusual behavior at this time, rebellious behavior even. It could also be about a very formidable Aquarius adversary that might emerge. It could be somebody, a family member, someone you feel close to home with, or maybe even somebody in some 4th house type profession, such as somebody in real estate or home improvement or even cooking. And again, it could be an Aquarius sun, moon, or ascendant, or simply one that embodies Aquarius-like characteristics. Could also be you're talking about the Black Moon Lilith. It could be about what is let out of the bag, so to speak, that you didn't want out of the bag, but does come out for whatever reason. And in this case, well, it could be maybe something unusual or bizarre regarding maybe your ancestry or roots, perhaps, that comes out of the bag, or it might be some kind of unusual interest you may have that you feel close to home with, that you really don't want maybe a lot of people or anybody perhaps even knowing about, and perhaps it does come out of the bag, so to speak. And now when you're talking about the Black Moon Lilith in the 4th house, it's important to be wary at this time that this could be very distressful situation on the home front. I have the Black Moon Lilith in my 4th house natally, but it's in domineering Leo. And I've had a lot of issues on the home front, a lot of times with actual Leo people, and also, really when it seems like your home life, with this placement, can often be in a constant state of some kind of distress at this time, and there might be some kind of verbal abuse. And given that this is it doesn't necessarily be physical, it could be verbal as well. And it could be opprobrious language, for example. But given that this is Aquarius, it could be very unpredictable, very sporadic and erratic, and very unusual. It just might come out very spontaneously and very unpredictably, given that this is Aquarius energy. So it's something to be wary of at this time. Anyway, last but not least, Chiron will be in Pisces. So the 5th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. At this time, Scorpio, this could be going through some emotional suffering in connection with deception or duplicity, in connection with lovers, with children at this time. It could even be about maybe deluding oneself in speculative matters such as investing or being deceived and facing, of course, strong repercussions because of this. It could be also manifest perhaps in some kind of dissolving or dissipation in personal popularity and your enjoyment, fun, and amusement, and maybe about unrealistic things that are enjoyable for you, or maybe unrealistic time devoting to things that are to a hobby, to something of amusement, to enjoyment, because it could be detracting you from doing more important things, as an example. And also lovers, also dealing with lovers that might be somewhat nebulous and ambiguous, or even children as well, or even people that factor in your fun, amusement, enjoyment, and even maybe someone that shares a creative endeavor or hobby that you do with. So anyway, but given that this is Chiron energy, and you're dealing in ways that, I mean, Chiron is the wounded healer, so in ways that you might be going through some struggling and suffering in connection with Chiron and Pisces in 5th house energy, well, you may be able to help others out, dealing with comparable situations and problems, and do so with a lot of Pisces like empathy, compassion, self-sacrifice, and even idealism. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for my Scorpio October 2018 horoscope forecast. Stay tuned next time, where I'll be giving you my Sagittarius October 2018 horoscope forecast. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.